Oh, yeah.
And you were thinking of everything. That's awesome.
Are you ready? Okay.
Vitalize.
Good.
This should be a good time of year to get it. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention, please?
I gotta get away from the camera so I don't fall.
Thank you. I like this. This is up. Stand up here and look down and see everybody. This is pretty good. We have a few things we'd like to do today, and the first thing we want to do is actually say thank you to all of you for coming and for being a part of the Robert H. Jackson Center for this past year. This open house is here to, we have this now so we can say thank you to a lot of people. But first of all, to you, because you, in some way throughout the year, you have supported the Jackson Center, you have been here for us, you have attended our programs, and we appreciate it very much. And so now, there's some people, though, I want to say a special thank you to, and it's to our docents. If you're one of our docents, I would ask you to just kind of move right here in the front for a minute so we can see who, so everybody can see who you are. Come on, right up here. Come on, there we are. Jim, right up here. Here they come. These folks, along with some others that are not here today, sit diligently at this table.
Don't have the wine, though.
I know. I think we might have started something here. But from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, Monday through Friday, we have a docent who sits here who takes people on these wonderful tours of this mansion, this beautiful mansion, and the Jackson Center, and tells them all about Robert Jackson or the Kent family. And they do such a good job. I love kind of walking around while they do it and listening, because that's how I'm learning an awful lot. And their dedication is amazing. They don't get paid for this, but they come and they do this. And so we want to say thank you to all of you. We really appreciate it, and we really count on you being here, and it's important. So thank you very much from everybody at the Jackson. Before you go today, if you want to see what Sherry or Nicole, we have something for you in the office we'd like you to give you before you go. Just a little something for our appreciation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now at this point, Greg, where are you? Greg, why don't you come up here? I'm going to turn the program over to Greg because, you know, he's going to tell you there's a family we would like to recognize in our community too. And we have talked about this for a while, and so Greg, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you talk about it.
Well, thanks, Tom. And we've been at this business, the Jackson Center, for over 17 years. And all of you, all of you as I'm looking around, have been part of our world in so many ways. But as Tom was recognizing the docents, we had the inaugural docent, the person who was the most responsible for helping us at a time when this place was in shambles. The woodwork was cracked, the paneling was loaded with all kinds of imperfections, and we really struggled. And on so many fronts, Tom and Fran Galbatos came forward and helped us at a time when we needed help the most. And Raleigh Kidder was our executive director, and Raleigh, who I'm going to ask to talk a little bit about remembrances of both Tom and Fran, it was at a time where, frankly, Fran and then many people who followed her here, because they took her lead as a docent to come to help this fledgling organization at a time when we really, like I mentioned, it needed it, and to where we are today. So we're going to pause and stop and reflect on the Galbatos, the Galbato family, and Carla and Kay, thank you very much, and the grandchildren, thank you for coming, because they are special. We've actually going to remember them in a way. We've got a big brick which honors Tom and Fran Galbato. Hopefully you'll come pose for a picture before you get out Dodge here, but I'm gonna, just for the camera's sake, for the Galbato family's sake, and for all of us, I'm gonna call on a few folks to sort of do a reflection, and then I'll wrap it up because I've got a story or two as well. But the love affair that went on and between Raleigh Kidder and Fran Galbato, I don't know if we want to go on tape on the whole thing, but it was near and dear because she clearly loved the Jackson Center. Raleigh loved Fran being here, so much part of it. So Raleigh, if you want to step forward and have a few statements, that would be terrific.
You know, I was amazed when I first came here as the executive director that how dedicated Fran was to this place. And then, of course, that meant Tom came along, too. I used to tell Tom that the smartest thing he ever did was marry a Berjoda. And we had some terrific times together, and I see Jim Maury over here. He knew him better than I did, and he can give you more detail than I ever would be able to do. But I was always amazed by their generosity, and whether it was something going on here with docents or tours of the mansion or events downstairs, in the banquet room area, as we called it, they were always there. And so it's a real honor for me just to be here and again, tip my hat to them. You know, I often wondered, and we never talked too much about it, why did they get so involved in this place? And in a way, I think it went back to the kind of motivation that Carl Kappa had when he helped start this place, that they understood that Jackson was world class, that he had come from a small place, but he had made a huge contribution in the world. And they wanted to put a sort of an exclamation point on it, I think. I mean, they didn't verbalize it a lot, but I think that was really the driving force for their involvement here. So, very honored that you asked me to come, Greg, and when it comes to the Galbatos, I want to give a big exclamation point to what they did here to get this place started and going, and even if you didn't know them, they're a part of you too, the new folks that are working here. So thanks, Dan, and all the rest of you for what you do here. It's important work, and I think they understood it was important work.
Another one of our early and preeminent docents was Jim Aurea. Now, Jim goes back to a relationship with the Galbatos, which certainly predates anything
way back
with the Jackson Center. So if you want to share a moment or two, and then maybe how you interacted with Fran here at the center. So Jim Aurea. Jim?
Okay.
Come on over here, Jim.
I was asked to write a little something about Tom and Fran. I've known them forever. If I could read it with my growing cataracts, I'll try with my glasses. If I can't see it with my glasses,
You can, I'll try to read it with my glasses.
Let's see. It's a struggle sometimes. I've been doing better without them. Fran and Tom Galbato. I am happy and pleased to be asked to say a few words of my long friendship and association with my dear friends Tom and Franny Berjoda Galbato. I have known the Galbato family since I was 15 years old. My future wife Connie lived next door to the Galbato family, and their houses shared the alleyway that led to the original Berjoda grocery store, which was bought by the Ciancio brothers and became Ciancio Brothers Grocery Store. Berjodas then moved their store to Brooklyn Square, right next to Johnny's Lunch, and Tom and Franny eventually bought the business. Our friendship grew through the years. Tom and I were both in the Army, and after the Korean War had ended, I was shipped to 8th Army headquarters located near Seoul, Korea. I ran into Tom and my childhood friend, Russ Sardi, outside a movie theater located on our base. We had someone take a picture of us, and this picture has remained on my desk in my home office for over 50 years. I get emotional in old age with my friends. If I remember right, Tommy was a sergeant in transportation, and I was a stenographer in ordnance, and Russ was in communications. Tom and Fran were instrumental in founding the Lost Neighborhood Group, and it was a joy to work with them for many years as we celebrated our past in our annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony in Brooklyn Square. I'm emotional because they're not here. Fran and Tom.
You're doing fine.
Tom was also instrumental in steering me to the Jackson Center. He mentioned that they were looking for a secretary. Would you finish this, please, Ralph?
Yeah. Right. I told you I had glasses.
I can't finish.
I'll finish it. Tom was instrumental in steering me to the Jackson Center. He mentioned that they were looking for a secretary office manager and thought I might be interested in the position. Out of curiosity, I talked to Raleigh Kidder, who was then director of the Jackson Center, about the position. After thinking about it, I met with him again and explained that I really wasn't looking for a full-time job, and he suggested that I consider doing volunteer work as a docent for the Jackson Center. Since Fran Galbatos was in charge of the docents, I decided to accept the challenge. It was one of the best decisions that I ever made because it was a wonderful growing experience. Working with all the fine people at the Jackson Center, Greg, Riley, Carol, Becky, Fran, and all the docents was once-in-a-lifetime experience. To sum it up, Tom and Fran Brigiotta Galbato are two exceptional people who took over the family grocery store business and through their entrepreneurship grew the business to unbelievable heights. They are good people who give back to community in so many ways. I am proud to say that they are my friends and proud of their accomplishments. Fran and Tom, I love you too in a very special way. Connie also sends her love and best wishes. She doesn't get out much these days, but explains that she is 10 months older than me. And I will understand 10 months down the road. Came into that, Tom. Look at what I got in my hand. She has been telling me that for years, and I am starting to believe her. But thank you, Jim, for doing this very much. I want to say one other thing. We, in 2004, when I was still here, we organized a trip to Washington, D.C. to the World War II Memorial. This guy is a historian. And I said, he reads history all the time. I said, Jim, we're going to be in a busload of people. I think they'll go, weren't they with us, Galbatos? Didn't they go on that trip?
Franny, I went with Franny, and she had her her friend go with her.
Okay, that's right. Anyway, I said to Jim Murray, I said, you know, I was in the oil and gas business, so I can explain the geology of Pennsylvania. We're going to go through the Ridge and Valley province, and we're going to go up and around. And I said, but when we get down towards Maryland, I want you to talk about the Civil War. He had them on the edge of their seat in that bus, going into Washington. They were all associated with the Jackson Center. As a matter of fact, we charged a little extra, and the Jackson Center made a little money on that. But that was, Jim, that was one of my great memories.
That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun, and it's the kind of stuff we did, and you're still doing here. So, Jim Moria, thank you for doing this and writing this, and I'll give it to you when the things are over.
There's a couple extra copies for the family. I gave her daughter some copies too.
I got it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Talk about roadshows. It wonderfully reminds me, because that's what's happening now. Your brain's going in overdrive about Fran and Lucy going to Nuremberg. They went to Nuremberg with us. It was unbelievable, and they were such an integral part of going around. Not only from seeing the historical sites, but also shopping. Not all of us went shopping all the time, but no, it was terrific that they took such an active interest. I'm going to call on Carol Drake, who was in the middle of all of this when a lot of construction and stuff going on, and go ahead, Carol.
First of all, Jim, I'd like to thank you for not taking the office position.
Well, they got a better person.
I appreciate it. When I came, a lot of you think that I was the one that set up everything in the office, and I was not. Fran had everything, all the files done. I'm sure she'd never done it before, nor had I, but everything was in great shape. She knew where every nook and cranny was in this place, and believe me, there were a lot, and they didn't look anything like this. I was here in 2003, so she had a big jump on me, but she was fun, she was funny, but she knew her business, and she wanted to make sure that everybody else knew it too. You know, she wanted everybody to do it right for the Jackson Center, so this was her baby, and I love her family. Everybody's been terrific, and I love this place. Who doesn't, you know? So thanks, that's all I have.
Wow. A lot of other just notes that whenever Fran was asked, we'd often meet with Raleigh, and we'd sit in there and kind of BS. And Fran she was part of the team. She was part of the administrative team. And among the things, like a bookstore. We had to have a bookstore. Well, the next thing you know, see that area? Somehow she measured it up.
I should have mentioned that bookstore. It was incredible.
Yeah.
That's great.
And at our advanced age, Raleigh, where these things take a long time to process. But she was all part of that. Another thing which comes to mind, remember we had one of our big first events here, and if you remember, the basement along that back wall was loaded with moist paper. It was a disaster. So I suspect, and maybe Kate and Carla, you were all part of this, where all of a sudden they created a curtain. She gets a curtain, Rob. Remember that?
In front
Just
of the bad
in front of the bad paper, just to cover it, because we could not figure out, because it's wet cement, everything. But she did all that. She did that on her own. Just remarkable. Event after event after event. And, you know, so much has met. And Becky was part of that world. Do you want to say a reflection? Sure. By the way, Jim, I'm glad you didn't take the job, because you know how Raleigh switched you from a pay job into a volunteer job. we try to do that at every point possible.
Well, I ended up a full-time job for a while. Remember, I was going over the library and doing research for you on Robert Jackson. I'd go through all the newspapers to find Robert Jackson's name. And then every time I found his name, I printed out that section. And I did that for quite a while. That was a lot of fun. But then you got a guy from, a law student from Yale, and he went on sabbatical leave, and he did it over here after. He finished up. He did it over here.
Well, I wrote out a few things too. I'll try not to read it exactly, but I might, and I'll give it to Raleigh if I do. But I started here in February of 2002, and that's when I met Fran. And I remember that it was a day, it was a day when the Weeks room here, there was no heat in there. It had been ripped out for renovations, and the windows were being ripped out and replaced. It was a very, very cold day. I remember that day. The next day when I came back, I discovered Fran was still here. She was here again. And she worked full day. I was only here for, I think I was supposed to work till noon. But Raleigh and I used to talk politics and religion and stayed around till 2. But she was here, and then I learned that she worked every day as a volunteer. And I recall that she said she went to a talk about that you, Raleigh, gave about Jackson. And that's why she came up to you after and asked if she could help you. And I'm sure you asked her to work on salary.
I'm not sure that I was that good a salesman, but
It must have been. But she said she would rather volunteer, even though she was here every day. And she worked to whip me into shape, and she showed me all the nooks and crannies of the organization and the building. I admire her still so much. She's a very, very strong person, and this characteristic has helped her succeed in life. And I think it really helped the Jackson Center early on from the start of her involvement. Fran is a passionate person. Her love and passion for the role that Jackson played after World War II on a worldwide stage, having lived in Jamestown, urged her on to make the Jackson Center a go. And this passionate drive spread to and involved her entire family, I think. Her family brought in beautiful poinsettias and helped to decorate at the holidays. They cleaned out various storage areas, places I didn't even know existed here. They started a spaghetti dinner to benefit the Jackson Center and feed our guests as part of the student essay contest with the New York State Bar Association. They introduced their friends to the Jackson Center and convinced them to get involved and become docents. And Fran and Tom even drove all the way to the New York City area to bring back a Jackson portrait and judicial chair.
That's right.
We got to meet and know members of her family, even Andrea. I mean, you were like this tall, I've told you that already, but they called you the baby, and you were in here while your parents were working as volunteers. So we got to know them because they had countless hours of volunteerism, things that they did for us here that may be unknown, and now they're being recognized. And on a personal level, Fran was really good to me. You all treated me as family. She and Lucy Studd, her niece, led me and a whole lot of others around the city of Nuremberg. They had gotten there a little before us. I think they'd been there a week early. So they knew all their way around for the 60th anniversary of the Nuremberg trials. And as a friend, we continued after I stopped working here to have lunch, and she taught me many life lessons, and she was always supportive and encouraging, and as I said, she treated me like family. Fran, Tom, and the entire Galbato family, if I can generalize, seem to be hardworking and caring and inspirational people, and I'm happy to be part of honoring you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Becky, because she said, I'm not sure I want to get up and talk, but you did a fantastic job. Thank you. And it brings back, we've talked a lot about Fran, but let's talk about Tom for just a second. Tom obviously following Fran's lead, but they made more than one trip to go to spots in Delaware, New York, Boston, to bring back Jackson memorabilia. So when the docents go around and they're talking about the Jackson chair, the Supreme Court chair, this Attorney General chair, that portrait, anything Jackson related, it was Tom and Fran who actually, we had to figure out how to get it here. And this is priceless stuff, and they would not permit it to be shipped. That was Fran's decision. We will not let it be shipped, because what happens if something goes wrong? We'll be in charge. So I don't know what she said to Tom or what happened, but nevertheless, it happened. Far be it for me to know how that all happens, but it did happen. And so we really, to the family that's here, I know that both Tom and Fran are here in spirit, and that's why we wanted to film this, so that the family could share that to the extent you can share that. We're just so thrilled on behalf of the Jackson Center to pause and to really reflect on the Galbatos contributions, which really were in the forefront of the contributions of everybody who's here. Everybody follows really in the footsteps of Fran and Tom, and so we're thrilled to be able to have in our Walk of Fame out there a brick which pauses and reflects the contributions and our gratitude to both Tom and Fran Galbato. So thank you ever so much. Please convey that to both of them when you get a chance. I don't, do anybody want to say anything?
I'll just say.
Carla?
Not sure where to begin. I'm going to step up so you can see me. First of all, thank you on behalf of my mother and father. Everyone spoke so kindly of them, and I was thinking, when my mother did love you, Raleigh, I have to tell you this. Absolutely loved you, like a brother.
I love Jerry.
Like a brother, certainly. Well, she loved everyone she worked with. Both my parents were passionate people. Whatever they did 100%. Their marriage, their business, their hobbies, never meeting anyone halfway, never 50-50, giving their all. They taught myself and my brothers the same, to work hard together, to, and above all, respect one another, no matter what differences sometimes arise. And that's sometimes out of difference you can grow bigger and stronger together. But one of the highlights, I will say, of my mom's time here was their traveling. She loved traveling and collecting the memorabilia, and certainly going to Nuremberg was a highlight. My mother, as a child, was passionate about history, always. And she loved what Robert Jackson stood for, and that was equality and justice and treating one another with respect and kindness. And she lived her life like that. My dad lived his life like that. And because her passion was here, and my dad was passionate for my mother, we got the twosome, which was a beautiful thing. And to think the spaghetti dinners was one thing we enjoyed as a family, because the grandkids would get involved, and I certainly was part of that, cooking and serving. And in the renovation period, it was quite challenging because there was really no stove. We came, there was no stove, and my mom said, "What do we, no stove for cooking spaghetti." So I know. So we went to the store and got roaster ovens to boil water, and one of our employees had a turkey fryer, and we filled it with water, and we're like cooking spaghetti out of a turkey fryer for 140 people, which we did very successfully. But and that was all given to the Jackson Center on behalf of my parents, because they felt it was for a good cause. That the kids were writing essays. They were very strong believers in education and reading and children, and they loved that they were coming to the Jackson Center to see this. And I will tell you, when she was, as the first docent, studying to give her tours, she would kind of, give me the tour, and show me around. And as she spoke of Robert Jackson, and as she spoke of this place, she would get teary-eyed. She truly would. Mainly because it was, she loved being here, and it was that representative of all people are, created equal, and the justice that he represented. And she would show me pictures of things of the Nazis and concentration camps, and tears would really come down her face. Because she felt the pain of what they had gone through, and she felt she was doing something to contribute to that and to make people aware, to treat others with dignity. Excuse me, but that is just what my parents were about. As customers and coming into our store, they treated them with love and meant it, and sincerity, and treated everyone alike. And they instilled that in us, as kids. And I hope that I, as another generation, can do the same in our business. But as I said, everything my parents did was with 100% love, and this was part of that. And it's nice to see how it is, evolved, and how it's still going strong. And they would be happy to know that. And unfortunately, because of health issues on both sides, my mother and father, that they're not able to be here today. But again, on behalf of my family, myself, my brothers, my sister-in-law, the grandkids, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
I just want to say thank you to the Galbato family for giving us your mom and your dad, your grandparents, for all those years. I mean, once you get involved with this place, there's a passion that goes with it, and that, you just kind of get hooked on it, and you realize who Robert Jackson was and how important, even though it was in the 1930s and 40s when he did his work, that now today it's still important. And so, thank you for being here today. We honor your mom and your dad. And So thank you all for being here. Anything else?
Well, there will, for the Galbato family, stay around, we're gonna have a photo op, and you're welcome to stay, there's food.
Yeah. The brick that we're gonna put in the walk, that goes in our walk, is over against, is on the table right over there. So you're welcome to take a look at that, and we're gonna be excited to put that in the spring. And so, thank you all for being here. Please help yourself to some refreshments. Feel free to chat. Thank you. Have a good evening. Very good.
See ya.
You understand. Tommy, Jenny, Uncle Vinny,
I was astonished at reading the paper that Greg was talking about somebody 65 years old. That's baloney. He must have gotten that wrong. I knew it. I can't believe you're 65. Are you really? I know that. I never wish I owned your That's why I said it was a project that took a long time.
James, which was in they would be married. Yeah, she came to almost 2 years over here, well, in December. We went 9 months late here and finally got married. Destination wedding. So, and she came to that. But she was good. She was kind of weird. She didn't know. Yeah, I don't know. But no, yeah. Like she had more of a time frame. But like when she sees people, she would recognize you and she would know, and she'd say hi. She would know me. Like I go over there when we were there Sunday with them, and it was hugs and kisses. Yeah, honey, I love you. But she would, she would not know that that's the grandchildren. Where have you been lately? She travels all, I love you. You travel everywhere wonderful. Where have you just been? Yeah, where have you just been? All over the world. Fabulous.
My wife, as soon as I read the article, this is the only mistake I ever heard and saw you make. And that is when you announced that your wife was 65.